I was working on my iPad doing some lettering here in Illustrator on the iPad, and since I haven't made a video about Illustrator on the iPad lately, I thought I might have a few tips that I could share with you. So what I've been doing is drawing using the pencil tool. I'll grab the pencil tool, and I just love using this here on the iPad because it gives you these really nice smooth curves. Let's go ahead and delete that and try one more time. And I'm doing this using the smoothing setting here. It's set at about 7. Sometimes I have 6 or 7 like that. And the reason is because I want to find something that's a happy medium that doesn't give me too many anchor points, but is going to be relatively smooth and easy to edit. If you crank the smoothing way up high, sometimes it's just impossible to have an accurate drawing. So what I like to do is come in and edit by using the direct selection tool. And then I'll usually just choose whatever I think is, that's going to be the top anchor point. And I'll just use the little X here to get rid of the other ones. And what that does is it gives me, an anchor point that I can sort of use to balance this loop out here. And if I need to move that anchor point on the path, I can use the touch shortcut on the outer ring and just slide that point like that. Now this is really simple now because it only has the anchor point there and the anchor point at the end, but it makes editing very easy. So let's go back and do this on the top of the H. So I'm going to keep the topmost anchor point. You can see when you select them, they turn blue. I'll take the one to the left of it, tap the X, and actually this looks pretty nice like that. But you can see even if you bend it a little bit, it's going to get weird. So what happens if I take out that anchor point and that anchor point on either side of it? Now you can see it's just much easier to lengthen and shorten and tilt that handle until it makes a really nice curve for you there. So I tend to draw with less smoothing so I can get the shape that I want. And then I come back and kind of smooth it out by removing anchor points. Another thing that you can do here is slide anchor points. So when there's one like this that you think needs to be in a different position, you can hold down on the outer ring of the shortcut and move that anchor point along the path. And that usually, Illustrator lengthens the handles or shortens them to keep the contour, and then you have a nice point that you can have control over there. So those are some tips just for some lettering like this, and then a couple of other things I wanted to point out. If we look in the, well, first of all, now that we have it selected with the regular selection tool, we have this little slider where we can change the thickness of it. And you can see I just lost those rounded end caps. So let's take a look at how we do that. If we go to the properties panel right here, at the very bottom, you can choose the different end caps right here. So I'm choosing the center, the rounded one. And then if I choose the center sort of corner point right there, I get a round edge right there. So that's another way to make this look more smooth. Great. Okay, so now I've got another tip for making lettering like this kind of block lettering. So I'm going to make a copy of this by going to the outer ring of the touch shortcut and dragging. There's like a little plus down here at the bottom that's a handle that lets you move your object around. So this is actually in a group. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup it by tapping. And I want to show you the Y. The letter Y is made up of two shapes. As you can see, these little inner shapes right there. The letter U has been totally fused together. So it really all depends on how you like to work. I know that I'm going to take this over to Illustrator on the desktop, and I wanted to have the editability of having this in two shapes like that. So here is how you can do that. One, you can grab your pencil tool, and I'm going to do the letter U. So I'm just going to draw like this, and draw that, and it looks like I missed right there, but it should be okay. And then I'm going to do this And if you pause, you will see a blue dot come up. Mine is not showing because I have my blue touch thing on, but you can see that it helps make a nice corner point when you see that blue flash like that. So that looks good. But I didn't quite get this these two to meet up here. Sometimes that's difficult, but you can also turn on, let's go back to the pencil tool. If we go down below where the smoothing is, right here, we can close the path automatically by checking that checkbox. So let's see what happens if I draw this again. So I'm going to select it with the selection tool so I can start over, get the pencil tool, draw, pause, 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 and then see if I can meet it up right there. And it looks like it got it. And you can see that's a good join. Great. So when I have these two shapes here, then select them both and I'll go over to combine shapes. And we can see here at the top, combine all. If I click on that or tap on that, then you can see I have, what looks like one shape, but it's actually made up of two. And the advantage here is that I can edit this more easily. So to do this, I'm going to double tap on the U and you can see how I have, access to that shape right there. And then I've selected this shape and I can move it around. So this is kind of a cool thing that is, you can do this on the desktop, but here on the iPad, it's just done by default. So we go back here, the combine shapes menu, these four things right here are kind of like what you have on the Pathfinder on the desktop. And there you would have to hold the Option or Alt key to make this non-destructive compound shape. But here we have it just by default. And then if you want to combine them, just go to the shape builder here and you can see there's two separate shapes in there. But if I just drag, I've now merged them into one shape. So it's no longer that non-destructive edit, but maybe when you're finished, that's the way you want to work. All right, one last tip I want to show you. So sometimes, drawing and pausing to make a nice corner point is not always going to be the way you want to do things. Let's go back to a fill and no stroke. But I also like to draw like this. So I'm just making these lines and I'm creating intersections there. So I'm making shapes. They're closed shapes, but they're made from lines. And the thing I like about this is that when you get those to join cleanly, they make a nice, good, clean corner point. So one way that you can do this is, let's start with this part of the U shape right here. I'll go back over to the Combine Shapes menu, and here at the bottom we have Divide All. Tap on that, and what it does is it trims the little tails off and joins those corners. So let's go here and just give it a stroke and no fill. So when it does that, it makes it sort of invisible, but you can just apply your stroke setting or your fill setting, whatever you like there. And it's done. Let's do that again over here. So this is going over to Combine Shapes and then tapping on Divide All. And it works on closed shapes like this. It won't work on an open shape, but on a closed shape, it gives you a nice clean join like that. Select them both, and then you can use that Combine All to give yourself a nice editable two-shape letter like that. And then when you bring it over onto the desktop later, you just have more editing possibilities. All right, well, I hope those tips were helpful. My name is Laura Coyle. I teach Illustrator here on YouTube and in my online learning community for Illustrator. You can find out more about it on my website at lauracoylecreative.com. And if you've got questions about Illustrator on the iPad, just put them in the comments. All right, thanks so much for watching.